Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to address you this moment on the issue of Europeanization policy on migration and asylum. It is a well-known fact that European countries, especially the frontline states, have been faced with serious challenge of migrants and asylum seekers. The challenge was so enormous that the European Commission has to come up with policy pact that will ensure centralization of fragmented initiation, measures and controls on this migration and asylum seeking individuals in the European countries. It is based on this that the European Commission decided to fully implement the pact in June 2026, this year, so as to give the European countries a relief in order to have control and reduce the pressure on the economic and also the security threats that may likely come up from the migration and asylum issues. Now, there are actors in this migration and asylum fact. They are 5 in numbers. One of the actors is the European Commission, which designs and coordinates the policies. There is also frontline states that are highly pressurized by the migration and asylum issues. There is also that category of the European countries that is equally an actor in the Europeanization policy on migration and asylum. And these are some of the central Western Europe countries that are also in support of this Europeanization. We also have the other states that are called coalition alliance based on security states. So in all, we have 5 actors in this policy. And like I said earlier, the implementation or the full implementation of this policy is going to take place in June this year. Now, let me look at 4 central issues in the Europeanization matter. One of them is, what do we mean by Europeanization? Europeanization policy pact in migration and asylum means centralization of measures or policies from individual European states to central institution, which is the European Commission, so that countries are control of taking individual decisions on migration and asylum. And this will give the opportunity to reduce fragmentation of policies, decisions, measures and actions against asylum seekers and migrants. Now, there is also the issue of key alliance. The key allies in this issue are those who are, in coordination or in solidarity with others in taking measures or control or border management. There is also the issue of power drive. There is also the issue of recommendation and the position I have on this issue. Now, why do we have to do the Europeanization policy? There are two fundamental goals of doing this, and one of them is the taking away of powers and control of migration and asylum from individual member states of the European countries to the European Commission. It designs, coordinates, and monitors the implementation of the policies as agreed by the member states under the supervision of this European Commission. Otherwise, states can take decisions, can go against human rights, can go against the humanitarian issues, if not checked and controlled by the supervision of the European Commission. And this is one of the fundamental goals of doing this, that is to prevent going against human rights and also to ensure respect of human rights and to give attention to humanitarian crisis. The second goal of the Europeanization is harmonization of measures, controls, and decisions of the individual member states, centrally framed policies under the supervision of the European Commission. So, like I said earlier, these are the basic fundamental goals of coming up with the policy of Europeanization Pact, so that these countries are taken off the burdens of the pressure of migrants and asylum seekers in the European countries. Where does the European Commission get its power? There are four fundamental sources of power for the European Commission. One of them is the institutional power. As an institution, the European Commission legislates, monitor, and supervise the European countries, so it has power that has been legislated. There is also legal power, which is derived from treaties, which makes the European Commission to be a legally, or rather a legal institution that can enforce laws. There is also the financial power, and as we know, the European Commission controls the funding of the European Union, and as such, it has the power to decide support and also to decide not supporting the members financially, especially those who refuse to comply with the decisions of the European Union. There is also coordination and mediation power. The European Union is mandated to mediate and coordinate between conflicting member states. So it drives this power from this responsibility given to it by the European Commission or Assembly. The next question is, who are the key allies of the European Commission that will help the European Commission to implement the policy successfully? The key allies, like I said earlier, are divided into 4 or 5. One of them are the frontline states who are facing the pressure of this immigration and asylum problem. And as such, they are ready to support any decision that the European Commission can take to ensure controls on influx of immigrants and asylum seekers in the frontline states. So they are bound to support the European Commissions because they are also afraid of the influx of the movement of the migrants and asylum seekers into the Central Europe. So they are bound to support and agree with it. There is also those countries that are in solidarity with each other because they are facing similar problem. So problem of one country can cause or can be extended to another country, and as such, they tend to be in solidarity with each other and also in solidarity of the European Commission to carry out this Europeanization policy and implement it successfully. So these are the fundamental issues which are fundamental in the Europeanization policy of the European Union. Countries are flexible to make contributions, and they are also flexible to contribute in the decision making in the implementation of this Europeanization policy. The other issue in this Europeanization policy is the main strategic position as well as recommendation in this issue. The position is that migration must be managed through mandatory but flexible solidarity. In this regard, therefore, the key priorities include make burden sharing operational and enforceable. 2, ensure harmonized asylum standards to prevent unequal treatment. Strengthen collective border management as a European responsibility. 4, maintain the unity among member states to avoid fragmentation. However, the success of the pact depends not only on legal rules, but also on political trust among member states. And the Commission, therefore, must act as mediator, enforcer, and policy entrepreneur. Thank you, and God bless.